So good morning and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Julie Liebert and I'll be your moderator today. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at ITSO and I'm pleased to be hosting this 45-minute session today. I'm going to introduce you shortly to our speaker, Darren Marshall-Saul. Darren is our Certification and Compliance Manager and this is his first webinar. We're also joined by Nigel Cullum, our Business Development Manager, who will help answer any questions. So before I hand over to Darren, I just have a few housekeeping items to cover about this first webinar. Firstly, we have placed all your microphones on mute and a recording of today's webinar will be available on our website after. You'll also be able to find the slides that we've used today and any related content, including details of our future webinars. We'd love to hear from you during today's presentation. We have a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. However, we'll be answering questions at the end of the session. If we don't get a chance to cover everybody's questions, we'll be sure to follow up afterwards with a Q&A document on our website. So without further ado, I'd like to kick off by welcoming Darren. Darren, over to you.
Thanks, Julie. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to what we plan to be a series of informative webinars, allowing ITSO to communicate to our members our plans to deliver on our promises to revitalise and build a technology and service operation that will take us all forward into the future of smart, secure, interoperable ticketing. As you're fully aware, in the current climate, we cannot meet face-to-face, and we wanted to tell you about the work we've been doing here at ITSO. I'm sure most of you remember that it was about a year ago when we all met in the conference rooms at the MK Dons Stadium here in Milton Keynes. Over those 2 days, we discussed, aired and probed all areas of the current version of the ITSO specification, as well as areas of ITSO technology that needed some thought, redesign, or just removal of ambiguity. ITSO have been working hard decanting that information, absorbing your valuable feedback and building out a pipeline of activity. Can deliver improvements, clarity and new features identified and delivered into the ITSO specification, as well as reviewing any underlying technology. Today's webinar will also concentrate on the process we have adopted for agreeing content of new and subsequent versions of the ITSO specification and how this will be managed and delivered. Following on from the initial member engagement and workshops, we collated and reviewed all captured items onto a specification backlog. There were over 550 items collected over those 2 days, and findings have highlighted major themes of concern for our members and those which carried the most weight and interest during those workshops. After several months of refinement, the 550 line items have been reviewed and organised into overarching themes. These themes have now been taken forward into projects or work packages that are able to be turned into deliverables. I'd just like to go through those themes. So, ISAM management. See, numerous concerns have been voiced regarding the significant challenges in regard to the management of ISAMs. The management of ISAM profiles and the associated applying of Class 3 secure messaging is highly problematic, error-prone, and too complex, and accounts for a considerable amount of time and effort due to the requirement to continually monitor the overall process. Furthermore, the inability to fully manage the application of updates in certain situations results in ISAM failures without being able to fully determine the cause and current state of the ISAM. Whether this is for a profile or a firmware update, the situation is exaggerated the larger the ISAM estate. While ITSO specification supporting documents define the requirements, it is understood that these may not be interpreted correctly, resulting in incompatibility issues and associated ISAM failures. Another area is around Class 2 messaging. So a number of issues have been identified which affects hops-to-hops messaging in live operations. These relate to hops outages, hops repeatedly sending the same messages or not at all, posts using incorrect OID values within transaction data and incorrect seals on received data frames. Without a robust mechanism in place, this currently impacts upon the ability for commercial schemes to provide near real-time distribution of action list and the inability to accurately calculate operator reimbursement based upon its transactional data. Part 8 of the ITSO specification details the functional and operational requirements of the ITSO Secure Application module. Due to its technical nature and the information to be conveyed, it is cited as difficult to translate, and it is recommended that further information and clarification is provided with an emphasis to simplify the language used to enable better interpretation. Operational issues have been reported where there is inconsistency with date timestamps and how time is currently recorded. It's important that the industry is consistent with the way transaction times are handled so that, for example, pay-as-you-go, account-based ticketing are all managed effectively. There's also a potential need for a hops to CMS data exchange, or certainly there's a need for development of an implementation guide. IPs. User-defined elements have led to issues of interoperability where their correct interpretation cannot be deduced. Removal of unused IPs. The ITSO specification currently defines 16 IP types. Of these, there are potentially many that have never been used. The ITSO specification mandates that the national stored travel rights product shall be included on every customer media. This national product has never been adopted and therefore remains unused, occupying space that could be used elsewhere and better served elsewhere. The ITSO specification mandates that Type 14 products shall only be used where a current valid Type 16 product already exists. There are situations where the use of Type 14 alone is sufficient to meet the requirements of schemes. Also, the product definitions for the Type 14 16 currently does not provide the ability to define a date to that of first use. This current implementation causes issues and financial impact where the card is issued and subsequently used prior to the entitlement start date. There is a need to address the incompatibility issues that exist between bus and rail. It is recommended that to drive true interoperability, that either the RSPS 3002 should be incorporated into its specification, or RSPS 3002 should include the integrated ticketing requirements for both rail and bus. Customer media. With the current Department for Transport strategy to eventually replace magstripe ticketing, there is a clear requirement within rail to support a low-cost alternative capable of supporting Type 22 and Type 23 products. While the demand is increasing, the current constraints of existing small memory customer media and associated space-saving products severely limits this use. Also, since the last version of the specification, a further 2 customer media definitions have been identified for removal. Technical notes will remove the MyFair Classic 1K and 4K from the specification, leaving 3 remaining media types. This currently leaves insufficient choice to meet operator needs. Enhancements to card media technology has brought about a range of new media offering greater capacity, faster processing with increased security. Since the workshops were held, questionnaires were issued and feedback was provided on the overall approach of the sessions and the value members perceived. Members were asked to return a completed survey outlining their subjects in order of priority based upon the categories drawn out from the workshops. To date, 17 member organisations responded to that survey, and since then we have engaged directly with all 17 of them, either in regular account meetings or specific dedicated meetings where operators have demonstrated a clear business need. This culminated at the Transport Card Forum in September, where additional face-to-face meetings were held. Throughout this time, our technical manager had been creating the backlog and cross-referencing against any legacy requests, existing technical notes, or developer guides. This work roughly concluded in October, after which we commenced direct member engagement. In December 2019, further interest had been demonstrated in a low-cost media, which initiated some work to investigate that scope. Soon after, a technical design had been produced to bring in a new low-cost media with minimal impact profile. Functional and technical specifications have been produced ready for peer review by our technical committee. Not only did we work towards low-cost media, we also identified several low to no impact requirements. Various projects have been initiated internally to address some of the items raised by our members, and I want to show you how we aim to deliver those requests. But first, I'd like to tell you about the changes that are coming this summer, followed by how we aim to deliver subsequent versions of the specification. So many members have requested that certain improvements be made available sooner so that it can take advantage of new functionality, such as a new low-cost media option. We needed to introduce a mechanism to allow optional items to be introduced without a change to the specification. So we have introduced an additional optional part of the specification, which we will call Part 12. Initially, this will include the new low-cost media option. However, new functionality, for example, another media type, could be added to this part of the specification at a later date. So the items being delivered this summer are the introduction of a new low-cost media. So CMD 9 has been created to accommodate short duration tickets using existing ITSO product types. Membership support for this update has been significant, with the opportunity to offer a ticket form factor at a lower price range. IP updates. This is the first deliverable of our initiative to simplify the specification by removal of unused clauses. This has been a long-standing request from our membership. We'll come back to the fine detail on low-cost media and the IP updates after I've taken you through our roadmap. We have a large backlog of changes to address, and as mentioned previously, we have categorized these into themes. Within those themes, there are multiple changes to review and consider for implementation. ITSO now plans to take these themes back to the membership so we can drive the future of smart, secure interoperability ticketing together. And we will do that through interactive online workshops over the coming weeks. These workshops will follow a far more prescriptive approach than the Milton Keynes session did, as the data already collected can now be commented on in a considered manner. The sessions will go through each theme, covering off each requirement under that theme, and an opportunity to vote for each requirement will be provided to operators. We will be holding multiple workshops to ensure we get sufficient coverage and engagement from the correct people. For each theme, we will build up a picture of the workshops of where interest sits. This will be compared against data already collected from individual engagements carried out by our regular one-to-one sessions. Items will be taken forward for review by suppliers, and again, our regular engagement sessions will allow these organisations to consider the items under review. And then a separate session will be held to round off this phase and prepare for the operator prioritisation sessions. This final session will give operators the ability to give a final opinion on the items under review and consider supplier feedback before finally voting on the items wanted to be taken forward. From here, the delivery phase will commence. Once we have our priorities, a decision can be made if and when an interim release of the specifications is suitable before a version 3. But again, it depends on the size of the items taken forward, how long that would be before version 3 would be released. As you can see on this slide, there's some interesting subjects along the bottom of the roadmap. The intention of the first release of the ITSO specification was to provide an implementation guide in support of the TS1000 technical specification, with its purpose to provide clarity around the implementation of the specifications for suppliers and operators. Although this has never been formally implemented, a significant number of supporting documents and guides have been produced to accompany each formal release of the specification, which have gone some way to address this. However, as the use and adoption of these documents is not mandated, this has led to many instances of interoperability. Some work has already been done by various schemes throughout the UK to standardise specifically the use of ITSO products by the way of the OWAG product catalogue. To build upon this, it is proposed that the previous work and documents produced are incorporated into a newly defined implementation layer, such that it becomes easy to use as a centralised document. This will provide an explanation around how to implement an ITSO scheme, giving a clear understanding of the expectations and activities required to implement such a scheme. Next Generation ISAM project. Following engagement with our members, it is clear that the current ISAM platform can bring a number of operational challenges. Combined with advancements in technology and remote management practices, we commenced our ISAM v Next initiative in November 2019 to conduct a full review of the ISAM and the security management systems. This project will look at advancements in technology and how they might be applied to the security subsystem to improve operational use. As part of the project phasing, we will be providing an early access program to relevant members, and more details will be available shortly. Those members interested in being involved in this early access program should contact myself. Our initial assessment has defined a number of technical work streams we plan to progress alongside an engagement to replay the workshop output and define our operational requirements. Some requirements captured at the workshops have identified not just a need for new functionality, but will require updates to existing firmware. This again points back to the operational issues of Class 3 updates and their impact on the state of devices. While we have identified a number of possible options, it is for ITSO to work with its operator members to firm up their deployment approach. As everyone can appreciate, this is not a small undertaking, however we feel it is an important update to make. Any product development activity ITSO undertakes should consider the customer proposition first and foremost. And how security is implemented is on ITSO. And as far as operational activities are concerned, it should just work. It is for this new initiative to uphold these core tenets and deliver a modern product capable of supporting transit systems for the future. Okay, I'd like to return to the changes happening this summer. Okay, so the introduction of a new low-cost media, CMD9. Low-cost media being delivered this summer are the NFC contactless chips with stripped-down functionality. This makes them small and therefore cheap and suitable for deployment as disposable or limited lifespan tickets. They are compatible with the existing ITSO reader infrastructure and can carry the full range of IPEs. This means they will support existing schemes and ticket types without the need for operators to define new IPEs and business rules. The chosen ticket body material is dependent on the capability of the card manufacturer, and choices around what can be used is not covered by the ITSO specification. The choice of material type will be made by the scheme operator. Historically, ITSO supported two such ticket types, CMD4, which is the NXP's original ultralight product, and CMD5, the Innovision dual chip. Neither CMD type has gained wide deployment, principally because of the limited range of products that they can support. Also, CMD5 is now obsolete and discontinued. More recently, chips with similar capabilities but with additional memory have arrived on the market, principally the next generation of NXP ultralight chips and their near cousins in the NFC 4 and Type 2 tag ranges. Most interesting, these devices can support the full range of ITSO IPEs, value record groups, and the ITSO log file mechanism. The key business drive that we kept hearing from our membership was the ability to use their current ITSO product catalog normally deployed into existing media types, thereby simplifying the scheme global support for products on the ISAM. In common with other non-compact ITSO media, shell creation is restricted to perso posts, while IPE loading may be performed by a normal retail post, ETM, or remote post. This removes the anomaly seen in CMD4 and 5s where the shell is effectively anonymous. Use of a ticket medium with lower unit costs than the current generation of CMD2 and CMD7 offering is very attractive for many issuers. In scenarios such as period passes on buses, there is a high rate of card replacement as users lose cards or take the lazy option to replace them rather than to top them up. There is a similar advantage in environments where unattended or automated gates are the norm, such as rail and underground, where magnetic stripe is currently technology of choice. Maintenance and reliability issues relating to magnetic stripe readers incur high costs for operators. The advantages of the low cost of magnetic ticket body is outweighed by the cost of gate maintenance and the inability to perform any ticket inspection when the gates are awaiting repair. Attempts to replace magnetics with barcodes have had limited success because of the additional instrumentation the gate line required, and reading rates have been disappointing. It also relies on proprietary implementations due to the absence of an interoperable barcoding ticketing standard. Some operators use scratch cards to provide day travel to individuals. These scratch cards are usually scratched off by the user and rarely checked by the operator, therefore create a huge revenue loss due to fraudulent use. By issuing these tickets on demand, also mitigates the risk of pre-printed stock going missing. Low-cost contactless media described here uses existing infrastructure that has high reliability and consequently has a lower maintenance cost. It is already present in the vast majority of ticket vending machine and reading devices already out there. However, low-cost media are not appropriate for all scenarios, and operators must consider the benefits and limitations of this technology. So on screen we can see the types of ticket that it would be appropriate for and the inappropriate types of tickets. I'll just go through those in a bit more detail. Here the lower maintenance costs of contactless reader technology and corresponding greater uptime for gates is a major advantage. Support for the full ITSO log files makes this media capable of supporting multimodal journeys. The lower durability of paper tickets is of little concern as lifetime is limited and paper has already proven itself durable enough for this category of ticket. The ticket infrastructure is already widely deployed and mid-journey inspection is simplified. So a single-use ticket with defined start and end dates is ideally suited to this type of media. Such tickets can be created on demand through ITSO's normal IP retail mechanisms or can be pre-issued to retailers and activated on first use. This latter scenario would replace the scratch card technology deployed by operators with a more fraud-resistant alternative. The value record groups can support usage counting of journeys, and log file support provides evidence of appropriate tap-in, tap-out for mid-journey ticket inspection. The NTAG variants of this medium are limited to 14 distinct journeys. So some of the inappropriate types of tickets are any high-value tickets. So proof of authenticity is entirely dependent upon the uniqueness of the medium's UID, as there's no cryptographic mechanism to perform any mutual authentication. Where the ticket is of high value, operators should use a media with higher security to reduce the incentive for criminals to target their products. This medium only supports a single IP at a time. Thus, if an operator wishes to replace 2 or more tickets on a single card, an alternative CMD type must be used. It's particularly relevant where accompanying products are required. However, in these scenarios, the accompanying products, for example, an ENCTS card, would already be on a fully functional ITSO card. Thus, the low-cost media should not be required at all. An overarching design and implementation guide is being produced, which includes a comprehensive analysis of the risks and how to mitigate them. It also covers issues such as media recognition, post behavior, IP creation and usage, and the retirement of the used media. This knowledge base is for equipment manufacturers that will ensure consistent implementation across the ITSO estate and should accelerate development schedules and reduce costs of upgrading. Okay, so IP updates. Okay, many of our members have asked us to simplify the specification by removing unused clauses. There were many items brought up at the workshop last year, and we wanted to start by looking at unused IPEs. We surveyed the membership for feedback and have decided to deprecate some IPEs that didn't receive support or that are not in use. From this summer, we'll remove the testing requirement for suppliers to certify against these IPEs, and these items will be removed from the next version of the specification. Additionally, a blanket derogation will be granted to remove the requirement to add the national STR products to all customer media. This will allow the space to be better utilised for other IPEs, as this will free up 2 sectors on the customer media. Okay. The workshops also raised many points regarding testing and certification, and I wanted to give you an update on what we have been doing. For certificates issued after the 1st of March, the format has changed to include additional details such as what optional functionality the device supports. The certificates provide more detail on the product under certification and provides a feature matrix for operators to compare functionality and performance of the product in question. This will enable schemes to compare a device or service like for like and to be able to choose what suits their requirements the best. There's also a clear need for test automation. We currently have 3 categories of testing, which is customer media, hops, and post devices. From the 1st of April, customer media testing is 100% automated. We've also initiated a project to look at automating many of our post tests. This isn't a small project and will take time to deliver and will require collaboration with all post providers. Another item popular amongst the supply community was fixed price testing. With the onset of automation testing, this is something we can seriously look at. And in fact, for customer media, we have already, by applying a fixed rate, reducing the certification costs by approximately 80%. By building tools to support automated testing, we can both decrease the time to delivery and increase the number of tests included, focusing on quality and compliance. We are also planning to offer a fixed price testing session for suppliers that wish to introduce the new CMD9 on ETMs. This CMD9 test scope will be produced and released with the additional parts of the specification along with the implementation guides. Okay, I'd like to take you through our portfolio management process, which is a mechanism how members can request new features, new changes to be delivered by ITSO. The Technology Development and Innovation Group, or TDIG, is the initial engagement mechanism for ITSO and its members to drive development of the technology and specification used in schemes. TDIG sets the technical direction and vision, and Project Management Office, PMO, drives the delivery and works with the business to support that delivery. Change requests can be raised by any ITSO member via the TDIG area on the website. Every feature, idea, enhancement, every bit of work is derived from a TDIG submission, and each request will include a summary description and a business case. The backlog, ITSO will publish a Kanban style board on the ITSO website so members can see the status of each request. So a Kanban board is, for those of you who are not sure, it shows the status of a particular request, whether it's in the backlog, whether it's been approved, rejected, or whether it's complete. The refined requirements from the initial workshops have actually been added to that Kanban board already for members to be able to view later this week when we publish it to the website. TDIG is responsible for the assessment of all submitted change requests. Each request is discussed and an action is decided to proceed or to reject. The output of TDIG will be published and made available via the website, and user groups and committees will also have visibility and provide opportunity for further feedback. Those deemed not suitable to progress shall be notified together with the justification of that decision. Any request requiring an amendment to the ITSO specification will follow the developing, approving and publishing amendments to the ITSO specification process, which includes the ITSO Technical Committee, which is an advisory body offering expert advice to ITSO. When updates to the specifications have been approved by the Technical Committee, changes will enter a consultation period with ITSO members to review before being approved by the ITSO board and finally by the Department for Transport for implementation into the next version of the specification. Where no amendments to the specification is needed, ITSO will follow the PMO process, for example, introducing a new test tool. Okay, I'd just like to give you a bit of background on the our PMO process. Okay, so using Agile methodology, the ITSO PMO will also provide a process to suggest new ideas into the business, allow ideas to be reviewed, and if successful, initiate as a project. It will ensure projects fit with the strategic vision of the business and ensure projects are aligned with corporate policy and standards. So PMO will also report on progress of all projects in the business and to its executives. It will provide a definition of done to the delivery teams and conduct regular health checks of in-flight activity. The PMO assists delivery teams by removing impediments and acts as an escalation point. So as an example of the Kanban board that will be on our website, you can see that you'll have access to a similar board to what's on the screen, so you can see what's in the backlog, what's been rejected, under review and approved. So again, that will be available on our website later on this week. Okay, next steps. So as previously mentioned, we're going to start operator member engagement workshops. These workshops will be more prescriptive than the approach than the Milton Keynes sessions, as the data already collected and curated can now be commented on in a considered manner. The sessions will go through each theme, covering off for each requirement under that theme, and an opportunity to vote for each requirement will be published. The timetable we're looking at for these workshops, so we haven't decided on which themes we're going to have a look at first, so we'll decide that over the next couple of days, and you will have the opportunity on our website to register for those workshops. Now, numbers will be limited because we need to focus on the subject at hand. However, if that particular topic is very popular, we may look at holding multiple sessions so more people can have input, but we'd like to keep it quite focused. So by the end of October, we will be in a position to say, okay, these are the items that our membership wants, and we will take forward into a future version of the specification. Now, whether that is an interim release or whether it's a large release a little bit further down the line is dependent on what members want and how big the piece of work that needs to be developed. Okay, I'm sure you may have quite a few questions on that presentation. So if you could take those questions, Julie.
The two main themes of the questions are around the next generation ISAM and CMD9s. So if we could cover CMD9s, Darren and Nigel.
Yep.
So questions around CMD9s, obviously around the availability and the costs, and are these going to be mandatory for future post accreditation?
Okay, let's start with the availability and cost. So I think when we embarked upon this, we were very surprised by obviously what's now available in the market with regards to NFC, let's call them tag or NFC types, and the N tag was actually chosen because it ticks a lot of boxes. Mainly because its origins are in the smart poster world, so it's already being manufactured in quite large quantities. Now, obviously, ITSO needed to be able to make sure that in identifying the right types of technology are going to be affordable, and that's a very strange word. I think what we managed to do is to find that you could buy these N tags, for example, in small quantities, sub 10 pence. And these are the actual, let's be clear, these are the actual chipsets themselves, and there's no real accounting for the form factor. So I think as we responded to one of the questions, the actual price of the finished form factor depends on what that form factor looks like. But rest assured that we've been making sure that two things. One, the base product is cost effective, and B, it's readily available, and more importantly, C, it actually met the technical requirements for that research. So I think and just to be clear, we have spoken to a lot of the chip providers. We've also spoken to a lot of the bureaus, who are our members, of course, and I think they have all now got some ideas about how they could purpose that into a form factor suitable for the operating scheme. So I think it's going to be a question now of approaching the supply market, and then we can work towards what that looks like commercially. So I think there's a question there which I'll pass back to you, Darren, about the question about CMDD once it's live. Will this be mandatory for future post accreditations? I think that sits in your world.
Yes, certainly. So we're introducing this new low-cost media, or CMD9, in an optional part of the specification. So it won't be mandatory that everybody has to support this. Obviously, if you are supplying a scheme that wants to utilize this functionality, then yes, you need to be accredited for it. But it isn't mandatory at the moment.
Okay. Next question. Quick question about the IPE engagement. Are we complete with the list of IPs that are going to be removed? My response initially was we've completed our initial engagement with members, particularly those that have existing IPs registered. Great response from everybody, thank you. And I've passed the report on now to the technical team. Darren, do you want to give any further feedback on that?
Yeah, so there's certainly a number of ticket types that are still in use. For example, type 28s, but we've got a clear steer from our members to the IPs that are definitely not in use. We also conducted an extra activity of looking at the ISMS to see which operators or suppliers had these other types of IPs registered, and contacted them directly to say, okay, if you've got this registered, do you actually use it, just in case they missed the communication. So now we've got a candidate list, and we're still going through refinement on that one, but we should be able to publish that list within a couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you. Next question is around the ISAM, Generation ISAM project.
So I think all I can go into at the moment, so we can't go into too much detail, but the project is looking at everything from the underlying technology, the way ISAMs are managed and updated, and business processes. Like I said, that the planned workshops will also provide input to that project. And as mentioned in the presentation, as part of the project facing, we'll be providing like an early access program to members. So more details will be available shortly. For anybody who is interested in further details of this early engagement program, if they can contact myself, and then we can organise something for a future date.
Can ITSO confirm that they will have the resources to complete this ambitious plan?
Yes. So so what we're delivering this summer is, I would say, 95% there. So that is going through final testing. We will have a look at what the main themes are that come out of the workshops, and resource plan will be put together to accommodate those requests.
Okay, and a question around the workshops. When are they? What's the overview and what's the process for getting involved?
Okay, so we are wanting to kick off the workshops in June at some point. So we probably aim to have like 2 themes per month over the next few months. Really, the high-level process will be to look at those captured requirements in the transparent backlog that we're going to publish. There's potentially lots of ideas there that are very similar or duplicate, so we will look at managing any duplicates at that stage as well. We will assess any new ideas against any current initiatives, because there may already be some of the items covered by technical notes that will go into the next version of the specification. We'll promote ideas to the roadmap for inclusion into either the next version or a later version, and also look at the overall aim. It's basically to get areas of all areas of memberships engaged in what comes within the next versions of the specification. So we'll be publishing more details on the website, and we will have a mechanism on the website where you can register interest to be part of that particular themes workshop, or indeed all of them if you're interested in all of them. So there'll be a mechanism on the website to allow you to register, and if particular themes are oversubscribed, then we would look at holding multiple sessions to make sure everybody gets their say.
Okay, thank you. Next question, has there been any engagement with post suppliers to test how their equipment will respond to cards without the national STR?
That engagement hasn't happened yet, but the implementation guide that our technical team are producing will give PERSO posts and post suppliers guidance on how this will be implemented. Okay,
I'm not sure whether you've covered this one. After feature pack 1, are you intending to wait until after the workshops before any further changes?
Yes. So after the changes this summer with the national STR and IP removals and low-cost media, the engagement pieces will highlight the areas that are of a priority to our membership. There may be certain things that come out of those workshops. So I think I gave an example in the webinar that if there's another low-cost, another media type, or potentially another low-cost media type option out there, that is something we could add to this optional part of the ITSO specification. But for anything that seriously affects interoperability, so for example, like hops-to-hops messaging improvements or any class 3 updates, then that would have to be the full ITSO spec release.
So how soon will part 12 be available for members?
We are looking to release all the documentation at some point in July.
We've had a few other questions that have come through on chat which may not have been answered in full, but this recording and copy of the slides will be available on our website thereafter, and we will compile a question and answer document as well. So thank you very much everybody for attending. Darren, thank you for presenting, and hopefully
everybody
join us to the next one. So thank you everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.